Hello everyone, this is David, and tonight's movie that we watched is Blue Monkey. Now, I know what you're going to say. What the hell is Blue Monkey? Is it a movie about a monkey that happens to be blue? No. Are there any blue monkeys in it? No. So why is it called Blue Monkey? Well, I don't know either. It's just called Blue Monkey, and I love that title. I remember seeing this on Sci-Fi Channel back, I want to say, in the early to mid 90s, and thinking Blue Monkey, and that's what was that was advertised, and I was like, that is the strangest sounding movie ever. And this was back when I was, old enough to understand what's going on, but not old enough to have a wide berth of knowledge of things, so I thought it was pretty out there for a movie. And it's really pretty much a by the numbers, monster on the loose, animal on the loose kind of movie. And well, while we talk about the eponymous creature, well, and I suppose eponymous isn't wrong. Let's talk about the monster in this movie. So what is the monster in this movie? A blue monkey that doesn't have any blue monkeys, so what could the monster be? Well, it turns out this movie has another title, more appropriate. And the other title for this movie is Insect. And that is, in fact, what we were dealing with here. It's a giant kind of combination ants, mantis, insect thing. Not really clear on what exactly it's supposed to be, but it's kind of like a cross between a big ant and a big mantis. Not a giant mantis, that's a different movie, but a big mantis. And it's kind of an interesting setting as well, but we'll get into that as we get into it. So what can this giant insect do? Well, it has all the abilities you would think a giant insect would have. It's got heightened senses of hearing, smell, it can sense pheromones. It's considerably stronger than a human being would be, on account of like 80% of its structure is just muscle and pumps and all the insecty parts. It can take a hell of a beating before it goes down because, again, it has just redundant systems and can operate with like 80% of its body incapacitated because it's an insect. Other than that, it doesn't really have any special abilities. I mean, it's fast, it's big, it's tough, it's strong, but it doesn't spit acid, it doesn't vibrate at high frequencies, or breathe fire, or have laser vision, or be a telepath, or it doesn't even have control pheromones like the ants from the Empire of the Ants. It's just sort of a big mean bug that ambushes people and kills them that way. And for what that's worth, that's a fair method. Anyway, let's get on to Blue Monkey. So, opens up in this greenhouse. Old woman. This old guy's helping her out, fixing her windows, I'm thinking, on the greenhouse. It's got all these cool plants. She sees this one in the pot. It's dead. He looks over, touches it. Something pricks his finger. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going home. And she's like, you want anything for that? Like, because you pricked your finger on something. And he's like, no, I'll be fine. And when you look at it, it was like a gash, which is impressive considering it was just like a dead stalk. It was like a wilted flower. So I don't know how that happened, but sure. He's like, no, I'll be fine. And he walks out onto the front lawn and then grabs his chest and collapses. And you're like, did he have a heart attack or did the thing kill him? Well, turns out it was probably whatever pricked him on the finger. So the old woman calls the hospital. They bring him in. Turns out he's got some sort of crazy sickness. He goes into convulsions. He dies. A giant white maggot crawls out of his mouth. A very graphic and gory scene. Well, not really gory, but it's just disgusting. It harkens back to The Fly, Cronenberg's Fly, in terms of kind of gross out factor. There's a lot of that happening in this movie. This maggot just crawls out of this guy's throat, and it's sizable. It's like the size of your hand, like if you stretched out your fingers all the way. Like, that's how long it is. So it's about, somewhere between 8 and 12 inches long. That's a pretty sizable creature. And you're like, okay, that's pretty big, but that's not huge enough to really be dangerous, other than killing someone from the inside out. Well, there's also this disease that's going around that's very poorly explained. And I can't really explain any more than that, because, again, very poorly explained. It's just like, I guess the bugs have a disease? Or maybe there just happens to be a disease that's going around. See, the thing is with the disease, And I believe alcohol fixes it because they made mention of that at some point. Is they don't really explain what it does or how it works, just that it's incredibly contagious and deadly. And that's about it. And apparently it's making everyone sick, except the main characters, who are the people who have had the most interaction with it. I don't know. But anyway, let's get back to the movie. So, they cut this thing open. They x-ray it, nothing showing up. They cut it open, bug crawls out. You don't get to see the bug, though. And they put it in like a flask, and they cordon off the area. And they're like, okay, watch that bug. We're going to call an entomologist. We're going to call the CDC because of this disease. So they do that. CDC comes down on they get the entomologist. They get this. The administrator of the hospital has this assistant who's doing all these stuff for him. So he goes to get the entomologist, brings him back, or goes to the brings him back to the place. Goes to get samples from the plant that this happened on, but by the time he gets there, the greenhouse has been burned down because the CDC is coordinating it, and they're not taking any risks. They're like, this is the point of origin, burn it. And they've quarantined the hospital. By the time he gets back, he's like, oh, you guys are going nuts. And it's like I think they said it's like a class 4 quarantine. I don't know what that means. I'm not in the CDC, but I do believe in the movie that means shoot to kill, because a guy tries to escape the quarantine for some reason. He rappels out using blankets, and they're like, stop or we'll shoot. Stop or we'll shoot. He doesn't stop. So they shoot him down, and I believe they either burn his body or they have guys in suits come out and drag his body off, probably to be decontaminated or disposed of somehow. Yeah, they drag him off. They don't light him up. They didn't have flamethrowers on hand. So, okay. So that's what's happening outside. Well, what's happening inside? So, turns out this guy, Steve Railsback, is the actor. Jim Bishop, I believe is his name. He's a detective. His partner got shot. He brings him in to this hospital. They usually don't do this kind of thing at this hospital, but it was the closest one. He was like in a car chase with this other guy, got shot. They bring him in. He's getting treated. So there's this cop there, and he's in there from the beginning pretty much, and all this shit's going on, and there's all these little cancer kids running around, and that's the best way to explain them. There's like a gang of cancer kids. They've been abandoned at the hospital by the parents, and they all have various terrible things happening. Only one is really explained, and he has leukemia. He's like the bravest little kid, and he's like the leader of the little kid gang, the cancer kid gang. And these kids break into everything, and even restricted areas, which is pretty impressive. So what ends up happening is, how's the bug get free? Well, they have a quarantine, kind of, but the nurse that's quarantining it, this other guy comes in, and they basically start making out. And, well, I think they go out for smokes first, and they start making out later. But anyway, they go out, and they leave, and the kids come in. They sneak in, and they're like, oh, it's like a cute little bug. Well, we gotta feed them something, because we're dumb kids. So they take this bottle of stuff, they have no idea what it is, and pour it in. It turns out that stuff that they poured in is like a friggin' miracle grow for evil insects, because the entomologist comes in later. Okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself. So that stuff's like miracle grow, because it starts smoking and glowing and shaking, and all of them are like, we're getting out of here, and they run off. Cut to a little bit later, nurse and her boyfriend, other hospital worker, come in, and they're gonna have sex in the room. Giant monster is now in the room, smashes everything up, drags the two of them off. Power starts going out in the place. Well, they come back to the room, find the thing's gone. The place is all smashed up. There's blood, and the funny thing about that is the reason they find this out is a nurse goes in to check on how everything's going, and she just starts screaming. And you're like, okay, maybe she found their horribly mutilated bodies or something horrifying like that. You're like, okay, what could possibly make this nurse go screaming? Well, it turns out what could make her go screaming. There's a little bit of blood on the wall. Like, not even a lot. Like, a little bit. Like, a little bit of the spray. And, if you got punched really hard, like, twice in the face, and you had to spit blood, there's, like, that much blood. and like the place is kind of trashed, and that's about it. And that was what it took to make this woman like lose her shit and just scream like a banshee. I would like to remind you, however, this isn't just like a random woman, like a woman that wouldn't see this kind of stuff. This is a hospital nurse or similar such individual who has such training. Now, having been in the hospital several times, I am well aware that most nurses are familiar with things such as blood or messy things. Some patients are very uppity or very crotchety or very, messy in terms of their physical condition when they come in because, they're messed up or they had extensive surgery or they just happen to have like a bleeding wound or other horrible things going on. Nope. This woman freaks out, attracts everyone's attention. They come running over. People are missing. Entomologist is there, looks at the situation, goes, so what's this stuff? And the doctor lady goes, oh, that's this. I forgot the exact thing they call it, but it was some chemical compound. And he's like, oh, well, turns out we use that as a growth enzyme in growing like crickets or something. So that's a problem. By the way, the entomologist is great. He's just fascinated by everything that's happening. He doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care that people are dying. It's not that he's amoral. It's just he's so happy about it. He's like, oh, there's a giant maggot. I want to check this out. Oh, it grew into a giant insect? That sounds awesome. Going down to investigate it. So they go down. They start losing power. They have this grumpy old man that lives in the basement, apparently, who fixes the power. They goes to work on it. Finds where the insects have set up shop. Apparently there's more than one. Freaks out, insects kill him. They go, well, where are they going to go? And the entomologist is like, well, they're going to find a cool, dry place. So they go down to the basement and find where they are. Apparently the basement of this place is insane, though, because it's literally built, this hospital is literally built on top of an insane asylum. And the basement is literally a maze of underused tunnels and like rooms that were once used for an insane asylum. So that's pleasant, adding to this atmosphere. So they see the insects. The entomologist makes a recording, which is kind of interesting. The insects notice them because someone freaks out and they start chasing after them. The head nurse gets chased into a room, things banging on the door. It's like trying to knock the door down. It's leaving dents in steel door, like the big ass steel door. It's just denting it with its fists, just showing you how strong it is. And then she freaks out. She climbs into like the morgue, because I think that's what it was supposed to be, is like the morgue. Climbs into like one of the slabs, slides it shut. Here's the door open. Has a big old knife. I don't know where she got a big old knife from, but she has a big old knife. And goes to stab at whatever's coming to open the thing. Turns out Steve Railsback. She catches her hand and stops her. Turns out the things went off. So now they got these bugs. And that's a problem. So they come back and light all that stuff. Well, they go back up and they're talking back and forth. And there's some more development on the disease. Some more stuff coming in from the CDC. Problems happening. Long story short, they come back. They burn the Moma insect. The other insect, the male, I guess, goes nuts, starts going on a rampage, starts killing everybody. Follows them up. They bring it to this experimental laser room. Steve Railsback takes the laser, kills the male insect with it after a big fight. There's like a huge battle. And that's pretty much the movie Insect. And there's more to it than that. It's not a bad movie by any means, but it's a little weird. It's very atmospheric, actually. There's a lot going on in this hospital, and it's a very interesting place to have this movie. And I don't think these were sets for the most part. I think this was shot on location somewhere. I'm not 100% sure. Finding information on this film is very difficult. This is a very obscure movie, which is why I kind of wanted to do it, to kind of bring it to light, just so people would actually go check it out or try to go see it. So I would definitely recommend seeing this one, only because it is so hard to find. So if you have the opportunity, even though like it may not be your forte, just check it out. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. But the worst case scenario is you've seen something that not a lot of people have probably ever even heard of. Blue Monkey, also known as Insect. I think there's a few other titles like Green Monkey. Depending on the country you're in, I think it had a bunch of different titles. You can probably find it under Insect, but I don't even think it's on DVD or Blu-ray. So good luck finding it. I recommend it. It's a fun romp. It's a little weird, but you know what? I can get behind that. It's the 80s. It's a giant insect. It's attacking people, and that's about all you need. All right, folks. Good night.